So yeah, it keeps the mind in an awesome, in an awesome place, and as well the body in a relaxed place. And so I've been using both, but I've been trying to breathe, to be more aware of the breathing, and try to maybe sometimes don't use the thoughts, and try to see if I can only use the breathing to make a awesome change in my state of mind. So just playing with it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, there's many different ways of thinking about it, and one of them is that the breathing becomes sort of an anchor.
Yeah.
It anchors in us into reality because we started to pay attention to it. And there are many examples of other kinds of anchors. One would be a loud noise that happens, or a bright flash would be something that the eyes would then hone in on, anchor in on. Or if we heard a sound, dogs, for instance, will perk up their ears, so they'll start to listen carefully. Okay, and so um, there's many things that humans have done to try to build these anchors. One of them is called a mala, and humorously also called worry beads.
Mm-hmm.
And Islam uses these worry beads. And there's two forms. One would be a mala that would be around the neck, and the other one would be a bracelet that could be double sized. And so you wrap it in half and put it there. And then the people will go one bead at a time. But guess what? We can do that mindlessly too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the worry beads then don't bring about uh, the anchorage that we're looking for. Okay, that in fact a really really strong anchor is often used more in the movies than in real life. Somebody getting slapped. Okay, with the quality of the language of wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that whole idea is designed to bring about this sati, to bring about actual knowledge, and that other people would carry some sort of meditation object around, like a casino, or a fire meditation requires something on the outside. But the breathing is always there. That's one of the benefits and the qualities to it. And that we can begin to use that intentionally so as an anchor, so that as we bring up Anapanasati, it's almost like which came first mentality about the chicken or the egg. I've just heard a new joke, by the way, about that. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? And the guy actually ordered a chicken and ordered an egg off of Amazon to find out which comes first. But in the regard of the breathing, then which does come first? Is it the in breath? Is it the gladdening of the mind? Is it both together? Is it both together with maybe a delay on this side and maybe a delay on that side? But the important point is that we will use the breath to come into the here now, to remember to breathe. And from that anchorage, then we could say that sati then would come right along with it. And then trailing behind would be the gladdening of the mind, wholesome new thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
followed then by the resultant feeling good that came from the good thoughts while we were also breathing well. This seems to be the way that it works, but we can actually change that around to where sati comes first, and we remember then to gladden the mind, and part of the gladdening on the mind then becomes the deep in breath, then followed by the feeling good. And something mixed uh, with that would be relaxing of the body and experiencing the body. Now, here's the thing that's really beautiful about that, and that is that each moment is a new moment. And we can experiment with this stuff in sequence to see which comes first, the sati or the breath. And we'll find out sometimes one and sometimes the other. We just automatically just start taking a deep breath, and with that trails the mind. And then sometimes we actually remember, wait a minute, what am I thinking about? Let's use the mind, and then we breathe. Okay? And all of this happens really, really quickly in there.
Yeah.
But it's something to be experimented with, something to be watchful of. But all of that is far, far more important. Let us say, it's more of the result of the fact that we have remembered to come out of the hindrances. That's the big one, is that we have to do one or the other as the quality of coming out of thoughts of the past, thoughts of the future, thoughts of work to do, thoughts of anything like that, including thoughts that bring on confusion.
Yeah, like doubt and yeah.
Bring confusion, so we get confused. And the answer always is to drop the confusion, because we don't have to have the answer to the question to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever question arose in the mind doesn't need an answer. I can feel good right now not knowing.
I like this one. Yeah, this one is nice when when I realized that I'm having doubt. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That the human mind, the way that our society works, actually teaches us to be on guard because there's danger. And that could have actually been with our human society all along from very, very primitive times. We lived in the jungle, and we, as humans, were able to bring ourselves out of the jungle, but we brought the jungle with us when we did. You've heard the expression of you could take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Southern English, country means people who don't live in town. They live out in the country. Okay. And they're then looked down on by the city people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when you bring the country boy to the city, he's still a country boy, possibly for a long time. Those are like the hindrances. Is to learn to wake up, to realize that this moment right now is a new moment, that it's not the past. That the country would then be our past, but the present moment is we're in town now, wakey wakey. Let's see what's going on here rather than living in the past.
Yeah, and it's not even our past, right? It's been passed down by education and the habits of the parents, and because we've never been in the jungle, or, I mean, in that much danger, so I feel like it's not even our personal past, like.
Yes, exactly. That in fact, what I'm talking about is not an education per se, in the sense of putting new information in the mind, but rather we're talking about the attitude that we have. The attitude is from, let us say, the boy in the country, when he first gets to town, is quite afraid of the place. He doesn't know anything. Everything is a big surprise to him. Okay. And the problem is that he's going to stay in that state unless he can actually wake up and recognize that he can figure out what's going on. He can see things as they really are. We don't have to keep filtering our mind through the delusion of our past. How does this fit into what I already know? Well, guess what? It doesn't have to. This new moment doesn't have to fit into our past. We can make a change here. And that's what we have to keep remembering over and over and over again, and using the breath for that as an anchor to remember to come out of the past, to come out of the future into the present moment, which is actually quite nice if we pay attention to it. Which actually, another way of saying it, means to come into our senses. You've heard that expression, no doubt, someplace along the line of come to your senses.
Yeah.
Okay. Mostly what we think of coming to our senses, actually, many people misunderstand that to get the brain working functionally correctly. But that's not actually what it means. Coming to one's senses means look at what's going on, listen to what's happening around you, look at the situation, look at how you feel, look at what's going on. That's what we actually mean by coming to our senses, is to come into the present moment. Be here now, rather than angry about what this guy did long ago.
Yeah.
Let's come to our senses. Let's look at the situation as it is now. And so this is actually a very good way of thinking about what Anapanasati is really all about. It's coming to our senses. It's coming to the present moment. But to mention something, Ajahn Thanissaro has written an article that I fully agree with when he says is coming to the present moment is not enough. Because there's many different ways of coming to the present moment. In other words, when we hear the dog bark, we may jump up and go run out on the porch. In that regard, we're in the present moment. But if we pick up the shotgun on the way, that's what makes it not such the actual present moment that we're looking for. That in fact, you could say that in the present moment is sati, to wake up out of the past into the present moment. But now that we're in the present moment, we have to look at what the present moment really is, and that's where we need our senses. To look at the present moment inside and outside. To recognize that there's no dangers out here. And so why should there be any dangers in here too? That's many ways that we can look at it, is let's get the inside and the outside in sync with each other in reality.
I saw a video where you were talking about traumas and sankhāra. So sometime when I come to the present, and I feel like there is a tension or an emotion that I don't like, I used to not like, so I see my not liking of this sensation, and so I guess this is considered a sankhāra. And but sometimes I don't even know why, I just try to see if I can like it, and that changes the sensation from not comfortable to enjoyable, transforms it. And so my question is, the way to change the sankhara, is it to switch it from not liking it to liking it enough that I can get used to like this sensation? Is it
Yes, exactly so. One of the teachings that I have used is the song from Simon and Garfunkel that talks or says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend."
yeah.
That we really do have to be able to see those things. And one of the examples would be a pain in the leg. If we don't like it and don't know what it is, and don't want to do any, let us say, we're afraid of it, then that means that we're not really looking at it to see what it is. So one of the things about a doctor is that, actually we can talk about veterinarians, because a vet who works on animals, the animals don't talk. So whereas the human doctors, his patients will talk to him. What the medical doctors often really need to do is to stop being doctors for people and start being vets for people and stop listening to what they have to say and start poking around.
Mm-hmm.
Start figuring out what's going around, poking around, etc., like that, and see what the patient/animal's reactions to that is. And we can do that ourselves. That's the whole thing is that, for instance, if there is a particular pain in the leg, then let's investigate that. How deep is it? Is it a bruise on the surface? Is it an itch on the surface? Is it something deep in the leg? Where in the leg? Is it around a joint? Is it bursitis? That kind of stuff. And we can figure all of that kind of stuff out ourselves if we really take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that means that we have to stop avoiding it and start treating it friendly, nurturing. So if we can do that with a pain in the leg or any place else in the body, we can do that with a pain in the heart too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the whole practice of Anapanasati is to recognize these painful thoughts that we have so that we can deal with them correctly. But if we don't want to look, then we wind up continuing to be a victim. I've had students talk about it, oh, my mind's a dumpster fire. Well, why do you have thought your mind's a dumpster fire? Can't you see that thought is an unwholesome thought? Let's take that thought out.
Mm-hmm. Instead of before I wanted to chase the thoughts away, so but now I try to welcome it, and it works even more. Like it's almost like I pull it toward me and it disappears into well-being. It feels like this.
That I'm okay as I am. I don't have to match up to some standard of, oh, you shouldn't have that pain in the leg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The standard of a good practice.
Well, that's the only way that we're going to get the mind completely unified and whole is because all the constituent components wind up being friends with one another.
I see, yeah.
And so that's what Buddha talks about. Friendship is so important is because friendship is what organizes and seals the mind, so that the rule making part of the mind is not browbeating the feeling part of the mind, which Eric Berne identified as the parent and the child. But the Buddha had that too. He had that knowledge. You could see that we actually set standards and rules for ourselves, and that's what mostly makes us miserable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really do feel it.
Having this present moment as this present moment, we judge it against some criteria or something. Is it good enough based upon this set of rules that we're carrying around?
Yes.
And the answer is, let's stop the rules and just enjoy it like it is, brand new and fresh. And we could use that with the breath. This breath is brand new and fresh. Enjoy it. It's
Yeah, it's starting again with no rules, right? No standards.
Well, I'm really pleased with your practice. I congratulate you. You're moving forward very well. And so all I have to say is, never mind, start again.
Yeah. And
did you ever come with a particular question at all? I mean, we just done jawboning for the past 20 minutes with talking about how nice it is to remember how nice it is.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah, and it really feels like you are saying making the mind whole. It really feels like all the sensation become one good feeling, and feels like there is not so much difference of shape into the sensation when I'm in this state. It's almost like one big well-being sphere or something.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's what the joy of the unification of the mind is all about. It is very, very much like Nagarjuna's story with Milinda backwards. You remember the story about Milinda wanting to know what the self was, and Nagarjuna used the example of the chariot and says, "Oh, king, can I take apart your chariot?" To recognize that the chariot is only in the human mind, but there's no such thing as chariotness.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a concept. We manufacture everything, and then the mind leads it first. And so one guy had an idea of two wheels, another guy had an idea of a basket, another guy had an idea about a horse, and the next thing you know, things are together. So, with that point, we begin to recognize everything is that way, including who we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
But everything kind of falls apart into these all constituent components, and the Buddha wants us to really look at it and look at all of these parts. But then we're going to put it back together more correctly. An example of that would be like an automobile that is manufactured on an assembly line, just standard automobiles, right? One after another. Maybe the color changes, but that would be about all. And each one of them has kind of unique defects. Now imagine someone buys one of those cars to put on to Formula One racing, or no, they let us say stock car racing or something like that, to where they take that stock built car from the factory and tear it apart completely, and then put it back together with love and affection and making sure that everything fits together right, so that it now is a much superior automobile to the one that the factory produced, because this one was rebuilt by hand. Now we can think of as society raises all of us children in kind of that meat grinder production model atmosphere with 30 kids in first grade, et cetera, like that.
Yeah.
Right? Mass-produced education. And that what the teachings of the Buddha is all about is, let's take that whole thing apart. Recognize that we do not need all of this extra baggage. And so we start throwing it out and making this thing really lightweight so that it eventually learns how to fly. So that we can go sailing rather than dragging and hauling around a whole bunch of junk.
Yeah. So the taking apart the parts that we do first, this is recognizing the role of the breath, right? Of the thoughts, seeing the thoughts, and seeing also the how the posture, right? Is it seeing all the different factors of well-being?
Precisely. And the way that we begin to do that is through the satipatthana, the body, the feeling, the minds, and the mind's objects. Because a lot of people, when they come to the teachings of the Buddha, they never think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet so much of the sutras are founded upon that phraseology. But then we take that as a foundation and start looking at it deeper. And one of the ways of looking a little deeper is by looking at it as the five aggregates rather than the four satipatthana. And then we plug that into the way that the mind actually works, and we wind up with paticcasamuppāda. And so after we really fine tune, another example that I use, like a clock, is that clocks can be manufactured or mass produced. But mostly what we do with old clocks is they've been around for a long time, collecting a whole bunch of garbage, a whole bunch of dust. What we need to do is literally to clean our own clock.
Mm.
And how we do that is taking it apart one gear at a time, polishing that gear, getting all the dirt out of it, and then putting that gear back into place and making sure that the jewels are oiled and everything is balanced and spick and span. And to now the clock will function correctly. So we
Mhm.
can see that way with the mind also. So both this analogy of the car being rebuilt or the clock being rebuilt is exactly what we're doing. So we've got to take stuff apart.
Mhm.
Got to
Yeah.
get down to the nuts and bolts of what is the base feeling. It's fear. Let's start working with fear. But guess what? We start working with this fear right from the very beginning to learn to feel secure. Why is that? Because we can't inspect fear when we are in fear. It has to be inspected from the outside of how does this work? What kicks it off? And when we're already afraid, it's hard to inspect it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And so this is why we use the phrase, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa uses the frame of having the mind fit for work so that we can see the basis and the source of the fear rather than being stuck in the fear.
Hmm. Yeah, it's much more efficient. I remember my retreat, and I was not in the place to be aware enough. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so dependent origination is the way the mind build back together every time we meet a trigger, right?
Yes, in fact, the teaching of paticcasamuppāda actually, with all of its intricate details, many people miss out on the fact that, oh, this is the malfunction of the mind. That as children, we start off ignorant. Then we start piling on a whole bunch of past ignorantly. We start figuring out what's a parent, what's a child, and fit in and form those patterns, etc., like that. So that in the present moment, when we see something, say with the eye, we try to figure out what it is. Well, the only way we can figure out what it is by comparing it with something in the past.
Mhm.
And along with that past image or comparison comes the feelings that were associated with that past. And so we reprogram the feelings right into it so that when we figure out what it is, if that's what we made of it,
Yeah, we get
our
the.
own manufacture is then what we actually experience.
Mhm.
That's the pasa. And that gives rise to the feeling. And so we have our feelings are ignorant now. And so if we like something, we'll want it. If we want it, we'll really have to have it. And now we're into full on grasping, clinging, and that takes us into the state of a wolf animal. Of actually, no, this is the preta of wanting things that we don't have. And so we're in a great state of desire, which is its own kind of hell.
Mhm.
You don't get no satisfaction, so the song goes. Okay,
Yeah.
and so there's many different ways of doing this, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa talks about let's have some wisdom at this feeling level. Let's start controlling the feelings, and then back up from there into the actual process of how did we get that thought, and why do those bad feelings have to be associated with that thought? Okay, and so that's the way that we actually experience paticca samuppada, but we need the skills that we've developed through Anapanasati so that we don't feel the way that we used to feel. We can control the way that we feel now. And then we recognize, oh, I used to feel bad, or most likely I would feel bad now if I had not seen the fact that I made this up,
Mhm.
that I created my own experience here. And a lot of
Yeah.
people go around worrying about the future, worrying about money, worrying about things that never happen.
Mhm.
They never do happen except in the mind. They're worried about something that doesn't happen, but they got to think about it and feel bad about it and maybe not even prepare, just continue to feel bad.
Yeah, and make like a decision that breeds even more of this thing.
Mm-hmm. So an example of one of those as heavy duty is that somebody gets fired from their job.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start to feel bad. Or for me, I can't get another job. What am I going to do now, et cetera, like that. And instead of saying, well, I'm glad that I'm finished with that job, what am I going to do next? No, we don't. We go into the bad feelings that may last for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll last longer than that. And all the time that we're unemployed, we feel really, really, really bad.
Yeah, and it's
Right?
also like an addiction, right? Because you feel
Mm-hmm.
bad, you have to act to relieve it. So you get a new job and you believe this is the solution. I mean, you do, and because you don't feel that feeling anymore, because you know, you changed your feeling through action, right? That reinforced
That's
that.
right. That's in fact the driver. Our feelings is what drives us into action.
Mhm.
Feelings cause the wanting, and then the feelings cause the craving. And that craving is the actions that take us to work every day.
Mhm.
Oh, we're supposed to do that. Mhm. And so then the critical mind, the critical parent comes in and says, "You're supposed to, you're supposed to, you're supposed to, you're supposed to." And every time we don't want to, we feel bad because we're supposed to.
Mhm. Yeah.
But with Anapanasati, we say, "Hey, I saw that I'm supposed to in there, and out it goes. I'm not supposed to do anything except just sit here and be happy. I don't, and I'm not even supposed to do that, huh?"
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No more supposed tos. And
Yeah.
so this is how we come out of that. But we have to remember to do it rather than get caught up in those supposed to thoughts
Mhm.
or what aboutisms.
And if we do that very regularly with all, I mean, more and more triggers that come up, is there a point where you switched all your sankharas to not react negatively to them, and you don't get triggered anymore at all? Or is it?
Yes, but there's kind of a dual process in there. The dual process means in the sense of inner and outer. Okay. On the inside, we're cleaning that old sankhara up. On the outside, we're not allowing old bad sankharas from the present moment of bad associations to come in and gunk up the works.
Mhm.
Okay. And so associating with ordinary people begins to become tiring for nobles. And they would rather be around people who are awake and happy, etc., like that. And so they take on the job of making everybody around them happy, which is easy enough to do. But it's also really good sometimes to get away from those kind of people altogether, like at work, and associate with people who are, let
Mhm.
us say, more nobly oriented into happiness, being here now, the joy of the Dhamma, etc., like that. And I think that we can build that kind of community online. It'll take a while, it'll take a bit of effort for each one of us, but the benefits of having some really good friends.
Yeah.
That's what I learned about Watso and Milk, that it's not so much about each monk doing his own little practice in his own little kuti. No, it's when he's done his little practice in his little kuti, he's fit for associating with.
Mhm.
That he's nobly minded and he's worthy of being in the association of nobles. And so this is the way, and we can help each other that way. So that if one of them drops out of being noble, the other guys can slap him around a little bit. Hey, wakey, wakey.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge help. Uh, I'm
It
sure.
is. It's
I'm sure.
um, And so that's the answer then to your question about you're going to have to deal with sankhāras on both sides of the fence, inside and outside. The question is now that do we have the wisdom to properly know how to deal with the outside world and in what ways so that it doesn't create a load of crap for us?
Mm-hmm.
Can we, in fact, associate with nobles? And can we be careful and mindful when we're around ordinary people?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's another practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not creating
And
new.
it's something worth practicing, but we can't practice it well if we haven't practiced it on the inside. This is exactly why in schools they have a fire drill. Why? Because they want the kids to get used to what they've got to do without them being panicked and in terrified mode when there's an actual fire.
Yeah.
You have to
Mhm.
practice. The same thing is with music. I haven't ever used the fire drill episode or whatnot, but it's probably a pretty good example that we got to get the kids to stop panicking and start following the procedures that we need to get ourselves safe.
Mhm. So when something comes up and then you're not it's new, right? You don't have any sankharas. So instead of starting not to like it, you try to build up enjoyment of this situation, this new situation, right? Is that the way to not create an aversion or something?
Well, this is where the idea of become aware, fully aware of actually what's going on, and then second, enjoy the show.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the enjoyment of the show. Is recognizing that our feelings of unsafety in this situation is from our own past. We're looking to see, is it actually physically dangerous right now? Use some wisdom. Be in the present moment rather than in the terror of the child.
Mm.
That in fact, that's what happens at a riot. When you've got police with shields on one side and a bunch of people with unhappy feelings and Molotov cocktails on the other side,
Yeah.
and there's not an adult in the crowd anywhere.
Mm.
The cops take on the role of critical parent, and the rebels take on the role of rebellious child. Not an adult in the crowd. Even the filmers or the media, they're one or the other two. If anybody was really awake to what was going on and saw how dangerous the whole thing was, they'd leave.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a place for adults to be. We need to walk away from this one. Okay. So, in that extreme case, we can see that that's true in family situations. It's true at the dinner table. It's just sometimes we don't want to get involved with this.
Mhm.
At other times, it's a good idea to bring an adult into the room.
Mhm. And sometimes it's subtle, and because sometimes we leave because we don't feel good, right? So it's going to trigger you even more, so you leave before it's too late.
Precisely so, that if they've already gotten to me, and I know that they've gotten to me,
Yeah,
now is a really important time to take a hike before they shoot me again.
yeah,
Let me
that's
walk away wounded rather than having to be carried off the field.
yeah, and yeah, I feared sometimes that this would reinforce the negative sankhara, right? Because I relieve myself by not feeling this and going away. Um,
Well,
walking
if you have two or more people who are unhappy with the situation, if you walk away, you become irrelevant. They won't continue howling at you and say, "Come back here and fight with us."
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, that you, in fact, if that happens, you walk away way too late.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, when there's a scuffle or anything like that, and we don't know how to handle it, take a hike. But then we can go away, recollect what was going on, recognizing that we did have a control there if we'd only thought about it, but we didn't think about it at the time. And so we can review that situation so that when it happens again, we'll be able to better handle it next time.
Mm-hmm. And so,
which in fact, the second time it may require us to get out.
yeah, next time it happens, you try to turn this negative feeling into
Yeah,
feeling
we have to figure
more.
out the situation to see, do we have any power here or not?
Yeah, and when you
Do I have the power to patch this up? Do I have the power to get everybody smiling?
mm-hmm.
And if I don't have that power, it's better to walk out.
Yeah, when you cannot enjoy it anymore, and you're getting too much.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying it, then how can you help them enjoy it?
Yeah.
Like,
That's yeah. Yeah. Out of the
right. So that's the
question.
time to walk out. Next time, can I stand here and enjoy it while this is going on? If I can enjoy it, then I can spread that joy.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't enjoy it, better to take a hike.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll try to enjoy the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And take a hike when it's not possible anymore.
Yeah, anything and everything that happens out in the world, that's an opportunity to practice Dhamma. To say, is this worth fixing or is this worth leaving?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that'll keep us out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we're really young in the Dhamma and don't know what's going on. We recognize at least that, hey, I can't fix this. Let me out of here.
Yeah.
But like I said, we eventually develop the skills so that we can handle anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a question of capacity, right? If I am able to withstand, maybe someone or a family or someone, triggering me, then I can just even like make the situation better because I'm enjoying it, or it's like a superpower. That's
Mm-hmm.
really, but if I'm not if I don't have the capacity, if I'm not able yet to have a unified mind at this point, then back out and recollect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then go back.
Exactly right. Okay, so if you have that unified mind, that's also the attitude of, hey, I can handle this. I got this
Mm-hmm.
wired. No problem here. Okay. And that thought may not take so long. I mean, it takes what, 5 or 10 seconds to say it, but it's actually just an attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the attitude, hey, I can handle this.
Mm-hmm.
That way we can really enjoy the show, is because we know that it'll never get out of hand. We got it.
Yeah, that's a good feeling for sure.
Yeah, it's a good feeling to have, and it's good to cultivate it.
It's
And the
total
place to
security.
cultivate that is while we're sitting there breathing. Wow, I got this breath wired. Yeah, I got it. And so we develop and cultivate that feeling of, we could use the word power, but it's not really power. It's more to do with the feeling of success.
Mm-hmm.
That's the right word to use. And another word to use would be also wealthy. We
Mm-hmm.
feel wealthy. It doesn't matter how much this cost. I've got pocket change.
It's almost like a security and success, like a secure success. You will never
Yes,
lose
exactly.
again.
Right. I'm secure here. It don't matter what the price of this situation is. I've got it in pocket change.
Mm. Yeah,
It
like you won
really
the lottery, right? And you'll never go hungry again.
right. I'll never go hungry again.
Yeah.
Never will. I'll go on a diet or two, but I won't go hungry again. Not in the system, oh, I've got to have it.
Yeah.
There is a tummy sensation that the tummy wants something, but that's not hunger unless you don't like it.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, let's go ahead and finish now. I think that this
Sure.
has been a really, really good session. I'm so pleased with
Yeah.
your progress. Keep going. Keep watching. Keep
I enjoyed
noticing.
this talk a lot.
Listening.
Thank you very much. All right.
We'll see you soon.
Have a good moment. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got anything left? Any last questions? You're good to go.
I'm fully satisfied. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay. See
Bye-bye.
ya.
See you.